Well, hi everyone. I see so many familiar faces in the crowd. Usually when I'm up here, I don't know everybody in the room, so this is nice to be with our tight knit team and our ASU Local team. And we've already spent the morning today really focusing on our local communities and spending a lot of time really talking about what each of our communities bring as an asset, what some of the needs are of our community, and really defining the local in ASU Local, because after all, that's what it's about. Our model is about deeply embedding and connecting ourselves in communities and providing education with and in partnership with communities. So for this conversation, I have our wonderful guest, Miguel Duenas, who is an expert really in connection and education and building out inroads to college and beyond pathways, starting with his work with LAUSD, where he was at for over 20 years, and then in 2015, moving over to ELAC, where he's now the VP of Student Services. So for those of us that have worked more with the community colleges, I think the work that Student Services is doing on a community college campus really speaks volumes to the type of support and services that we provide as a model through ASU Local. So we're very lucky here. Dr. Duenas also has a PhD in organizational, or an EDD, sorry, well, yeah, in organizational leadership. And so I do want to make sure that we have a chance today to ask maybe some leadership-driven questions, as one of the things that we're really proud about on our team is that most of us are first-gen college students or first-gen professionals. So we'd definitely like to take time to hear about leadership philosophies as well. So with that, is there anything you'd like to add in your introduction? Or maybe why did you accept to come speak with us today? Let's start there.
Right there. Amir asked me, would you be interested? Like, what? Like, really, me? Like, why? I just, through my transition, I still don't accept the position I have, like mentally, like I'm there, but wow, it's still kind of a disbelief, I'm here. So, sometimes I think, I guess people do want to hear a little bit of what I got to say. So for me, really, it's about sharing. I like to share my experiences. I like to share the work that we do. With my team, I always share with them. I let them know, we can't hold our ideas. We can't keep them. Whether they're good or bad, we have to share. And I think that for us is putting it out in the universe, and it returns tenfold for us. And when it has been for a lot of the work that we do, we connect with folks. So for me being here would be sharing my experiences, my grows and glows as I go through, and anything else I might be able to assist you with or guide you with.
I love that. And you're even using our vocabulary, grows, glows, and I call it knowledge hoarding, right? And it's like, how many times are we limited to the things that we know or don't know because others have withheld knowledge? And so another theme that we've really talked about today is like just how talented every single person in this room is and what a wealth of knowledge and experience that they have, which makes my job very easy because I don't have to know all the answers, right? And I think as a leader, that's one of the things that a lot of us learn right through leadership is that you don't actually have to know everything when you're surrounded by so many people that are experts and leaders and innovators.
Very true.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you, and this is one that we've all had to answer today. And so my first question for you is, what is one thing about you that is defined by where you are from?
Oh, wow. That's... I think for me, caring, and that's from being raised by my grandmother and my tias, strong women in my life. My mom passed away when I was very young, at 7, and so my grandmother took over. She was the chief of the village there, and it did take that village to raise this boy here because I put them through a lot. But I think caring and love, and that's what she instilled in me, and really as I went through life, and as what was demonstrated. And as I go through with my teams, I feel that I try to do as much as I can to show and demonstrate that. Because I think for us, we need to build that trust, that family bond, in order for us to be successful.
I love that. So would you mind sharing a little bit more about your upbringing? What led you to this path now here at ELAC? Because I skimmed over it. I think there's a lot more to cover there.
There's a lot more. And I'm very transparent and open with my life story. And I share this with the students. I speak in front of students frequently. When I was a dean of outreach and recruitment, I would go and visit the local high schools. And they would see the man with the suit, like, yes, sir, no, sir. It goes right automatically, they go to that, sir. They don't connect with you. But I tell them, my story is one, I'm sure it's very common with a lot of our students. I struggled in K-12. When my mom passed, we went to my grandmother's house, and life was not easy. And then I didn't know how to cope with that in our family. First gen, my dad was from Mexico, I'm here the first, and so getting psychiatric support was not part of the conversation. We don't talk about feelings, we don't do that. So as we go through it, I struggled a lot, and I struggled in high school. I was close to being, kicked out of school, barely made it out of high school, and I said in Spanish, de panzazo, just barely made it over, because I wasn't driven at that point. I was really lost, but my dad knew that education was important. He tried his best, and it was a challenge for him, but he knew that you had to find something. And I went to work. I started working at the age of 15. I would do all kinds of odd jobs. Went to the swap meet to work, full days, unloading trucks, setting up for $20. And I thought I had it made, $20, like, wow. To working with my father in what's called industrial jewelry, where you melt different metals and steels, being up at 5 in the morning. Seeing that work and being in that work, 11th grade and so forth, it really kind of pushed me, like, really to rethink what I wanted to do. Then I became a dishwasher at a restaurant from 11th grade all the way through 12th in graduation, fry cook, dishwasher. All those experiences for me really, just kind of put things into perspective. And my dad pushing, saying, you had to go to school. And then he stopped just saying, he started demanding. He goes, either you go to school or you're going to get out. So luckily for me at that time, it was almost like just meant to be. East Los Angeles College invested in my community. They opened a satellite location in Huntington Park near Pacific, and so, which is like the shopping center for our community there. And my aunt told me, well, they just opened the college down there. Like, let me think about it. And something happened in my job at the restaurant. I got let go. And I was like, wow, what am I doing? And my cousin just so happened to meet the principal from 112th Street Elementary School in Watts. And he told her, hey, we're hiring at the school. Why don't you want to apply? So she told me, Michael, and they call me Michael, is my nickname. My dad wanted to name me Michael. My mom wanted to name me Miguel. We know who won that battle. But my nickname is Michael, that my friends and my dad, they still call me that. She goes, why don't you go look at the school? So I went to the school, and I invited my close friends. Let's go check it out. Let's see what's going on. And they said, well, yeah, you're able to work here. Are you going to college? And I'm like, what? Yeah, yes, I am. What do you need? Fill this out and bring it back tomorrow. That same night, I went to East Los Angeles College in HP and applied. And as soon as I walked in, Dr. Castro was the dean there, and he says, come here. What's up? What do you need? What do you need? I don't know. This is what you're going to take. And he had a class list, a cohorted already, a PACE program. This is what you're going to, and that's what I needed in life. I needed direction. So I took it. And from that point, it I started rethinking things. But it wasn't until I started working at that elementary school. First, I did it out of necessity, just because I needed a job. And once I set foot in that classroom and with first graders, and they looked up to me for guidance and support, man, that just changed my whole world. It just transformed everything that I believed in, what I understood of myself, being selfish as a child, as a young man, really only thinking about me, to being in that classroom and seeing how I could support and help other kids. And I was like, wow. And I thought, I live in Huntington Park, which, it's a transitional area. You have a lot of recent arrivals, majority Latino immigrants, poverty-stricken communities. But when I went to work in the Nickerson Gardens projects, it's very different. And our kids there had greater needs than I did. And for the longest time, I thought, oh, poor me, but being there was different. And I remember my first week there, I was helping a student, and I hear gunshots right in the background. I got kind of startled, like, whoa. And the kids look up to me, and he says, man, my mom hates when they shoot next to the window. This is their life. This is their day-to-day here. And for me, it was just, it broke my heart to see that. But for me, I was able to say, okay, I can probably make a difference here. And I became a teacher assistant, went through and became a teacher there. I went through ELAC, transferred to Dominguez Hills, graduated with a bachelor's in political science and history. Because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, wasn't really sure. My principal had other plans for me. He said, nah, we trained you, we're gonna keep you here. So I went to the credential program and became a teacher. And that kind of set things in motion to work my way up here. I could go on a little more, or do you have other questions?
No, I would love to. Yeah, okay. I would love to hear the next part of the next chapter.
So with that, when I started teaching, I also, during my downtime in college, I was a DJ. I used to DJ in English clubs, downtown LA, Spanish clubs. It was just everywhere. I mean, I was everywhere. And then I had a business also. I had a party supply store in the city of Southgate that I bought, and we ran, my cousins and I. So it was kind of, just a side hustle. We say, and that was just our childhood, is you want to try to find a way to sustain what you have, and you don't know what's secure, and we try to always find different ways. So during those times in transitioning, once I started teaching, though, it changed everything. It was just like, whoa, there's a whole another side to this that I was not aware of. So I taught for many years, went through different grades, taught from pre-K through fifth grade. And you would think the pre-K, the fifth graders, no, the more challenging ones are the pre, because they look at you, they have no sense of fear or nothing. And, proximity means nothing. A fifth grader, proximity, you get close, there, oh, here's a teacher. Little ones just look around, you run around. So it was a great experience, just overall learning education, seeing from the foundation, knowing where the gaps are as the students progress through, and when you get to the higher grades, as where the gaps are and what's missing. From that point, and then I started getting more intrigued in administration. So I went forth and got my master's degree in administration, educational administration. Because at that point I had applied for positions that I thought I was ready for, but not knowing that my degree attainment was not there. And so I was like, oh, the opportunities were there, but my skill set was not, and it was not demonstrated. So I pushed for that, received my master's, and kept attempting. I got turned down so many times from positions that I thought I would have and I was confident in, and it was okay. It was all part of my learning. And through the process, I was able to get an opportunity to move up into compliance coordinator at the school site, an EL coordinator, English Language Learner Coordinator. You have your categorical programs, then K-12s, Title I, Title III. This is one of those. I was able to work with teachers and helping them with their compliance work, also with testing and working with students with their EL needs, working with parents. That was my first interaction with parents in a group. I worked, talked to my grandmother and my aunts, but nothing in that formal setting. So that kind of sparked an interest, something else. There's more to education than just teaching. As you go through your career, you might get that wall where you say, whoa, is there anything else here? That was my point. At year 12 of teaching, then I went on to become a coordinator and then was offered a position to be an instructional coach for the district for LA Unified. They placed me at a school across the way. It was the Compton Avenue. I was there for 1 year, and then they offered me another position to apply for it to be a district categorical specialist. So I was part of the EL family still, but at the district level, helping with audits, helping school sites prepare for audits and ensuring that they were compliant with all EL requirements when it came to parent engagement processes and student support. From there, I had a very quick transition from the point when I left the classroom to my senior administrative position in LA Unified. I was in the specialist position for 2 years, and then afterwards I was offered a position where I was voluntold I was going to take a local administrator position. It was the administrator of parent and community engagement. So at local, back then it was ESC East, then it went to local district East, now it's region East for LA Unified. So I was working with about 164 elementary through high schools from El Sereno through the Southgate area, where each one had a representative. We had a team of 4 that we would represent all the schools, supporting them with any parent engagement issues, needs, parent trainings, parent policy. All of that work really opened my eyes in regards to the community and seeing what the community needs were and really understanding that there is more that's connected to education than just a plant, just a location. Education is the school is part of that plan there, but really it's the community engagement, the parent knowledge, that support, and ultimately leads to the outcome of our students. My mentors at the time there, they kind of supported the work that I did and were counseling me and telling me, you should try something different. You should try to get your EDD, go get your. I was like, nah, I don't have time for that, not right now. But in 15, I did apply at USC, and I was contemplating it. And during that time, I was offered an opportunity to apply at East Los Angeles College as an associate dean. And for me that time, I was like, no, I'm not sure. And I asked again 3 or 4 times. And I told my boss, I said, look, it's not me asking for jobs. they're asking if I could apply. So I tried it. I applied. We were doing some collaboration during that time. It was an initiative called Go East LA. Great Outcomes for East Los Angeles. It was spearheaded by Monica Garcia and President Bill Covino from Cal State LA and President Martinez from ELAC then. I spearheaded the project for LAUSD, and the person that spearheaded the project for ELAC was Julie Benavides. And we were just collaborating a lot, and I seen the other side, and I seen ELAC as that home still for me that gave me that opportunity. So I talked to him, and we went back and forth. He said, you know what, apply. Just try it. It's rare when a person from K-12 has an opportunity to go into a community college. Just try it. You never know what's going to happen. I tried it. I got the job, and I think that was the first time in life I had a panic attack. As I left ELAC and they offered me, I didn't know what I was. 20 years into the district already, I was already going to have my lifetime benefits. For those of you that know K-12, LA Unified has lifetime benefits. I'm like, I'm set. But there was a calling there. There was a little thing there still for me to go and find that Miguel that's to come through these doorways here. Because that's something that, for me, I was so fortunate to be able to go to ELAC, and they gave me that opportunity. Because if not, I know I would have been in a whole different situation.
No, thank you so much. And I think that that's actually one of the tensions we talk a lot about is, the difference in the pathway from K through 12 to higher ed, because traditionally these entities are very different, right? They're very different, the policies, the way they operate. And so what is one practice from the K through 12 space that you think needs to be more standardized within the higher ed space?
So I think for us, and there needs to be collaboration. There needs to be more communication between higher ed and K-12. The plans that we see, and it's set up by the state, by the U.S. government. We have your K-12, and you have your, like for us in California, we have the California Department of Ed for K-12, and you have the community college districts and so forth, the chancellor's office. But there needs to be alignment. The planning shouldn't be K-12, because then we're setting the goal for our students. This is where you should be, versus 14, 16, or whichever the student wishes to go. That is one of the areas that I would recommend is let's create that bridge between K-12 and higher ed, what that system looks like to support the students, support the institutions, but also parents and community to guide them so the parents understand what their role is in higher ed. Because a lot of parents don't know. They say, oh, once you leave, all you do is ask for my tax return, and I don't know what you do with that, first of all, and then what happens to you? So parents are left out in the dark, and I think it's important for us to really create that bridge to support them, and there's positions that could be created, like a college bridge person that does that work to support everyone there to at least have that opportunity to discuss and create those processes or programs.
That was going to be my next question of what suggestions you had. One of the exercises the team did just before this is spent time really mapping out what our local community is. What organizations, what nonprofits, what other universities are there to really, look at the complete, complex environment. And I think one thing that we all are really passionate about, but maybe are needing to do more of and wanting to do more of is getting the family involved in the educational experience. So I would love if you have any recommendations or suggestions on how we can start to bring our family more into our college experience for our students.
Definitely. In our community here, in the Los Angeles community, San Gabriel community, very similar in regards to the family structure, the family dynamic, the matriarchs. Even though students 18 or old, they're still the ones that make the decisions. They still rely on mom and dad to say yes or no. We have students that apply for universities and don't opt to not go because what's going to happen at home, or the parent says, no, not going to happen. Can't afford it. I don't know what you're doing over there. So there's a lot of that lack of understanding and awareness in the family unit that leads to decisions that ultimately impact the student's life. Because a lot of our students opt not to go or start 1 year, and then that guilt kicks in. And that's where we start seeing that attrition after that year one. And you see the national data, and you see the drop. And a lot of it has to do with that lack of understanding, lack of opportunities to learn how to support a family. So for us here locally, it's important for us to share with our parents what's available, what the programs are, what the process is, what your role as a parent is. So what we do, we tap in, and you identified exactly what we've done. Connect with our local nonprofit organizations, local parishes, right? And places of praise, and then students go, locations where students like to hang out are Boys and Girls Clubs, organizations that support students, are non-traditional student schools, right? Public community day schools, continuation schools. We even have programs in our detention centers, because our students that are detained also have support and needs. Leo Medina, that you mentioned earlier, we have him, he has a program at one of our camps with logistics. UPS commits to the students that take these courses. If they complete the program before they're out of the camp, they got a job at UPS. The commitments from local community-based organizations. And the key one for us is K-12. K-12 for us is the one we really invest a lot of time into, because we leverage resources. What we have to do in our community is create trust. Our families thrive on trust. If they can't trust you, they're not going to send your kids to you. If they don't believe what you're saying is what you're doing, guess what? They're not going to give that opportunity. So we have to develop that trust with our community. And for us, we network and collaborate with our K-12 partners, because they built those trusting relationships throughout the years with the families in the community. But what we also have to be as an institution, follow through with what we're committing to and ensuring we honor that. With that opportunity comes leveraging your resources, leveraging their communal power that they have in regards to trust in the community. So we tap into them to send messages out to the families, invite them to a family night virtually or on our campus. And it comes from a person that they know versus East Los Angeles College is inviting you versus principal that you know is inviting you, or superintendent that you're familiar with is inviting you to participate. And we've seen our numbers increase in regards to parental engagement. Before the pandemic, an average room, we would go to school, get 30, 40 parents, and that was a good number. Say, oh, wow, we're good. Once we started looking at that through Zoom, the numbers shifted. 500 to 1,000 would show up online to learn about the different programs. We surveyed them. They said, what is it that you want to learn about? Financial aid, first year, College Promise for us here in California, College Promise, dual enrollment. We've been pushing dual enrollment for the past, I've been here 9 years, pushing it hard in the LA area. Really pushing dual enrollment to inform our families to at least get to understand what that means and the benefits. Then they go into students with disabilities. And then we also have our undocumented. Do we have access? Do my child have access to these programs? So building that relationship gave us an opportunity to understand what the parents they need and our community needs. That would be a model to help out to ensure that when the student comes to your door, they're well informed. They know what is the opportunity, and they have a trusting relationship with you already.
I love that. And I think what I love and appreciate so much about the work that you've done in your career and even your current role today is, in that ecosystem, those are all the things that are equally, if not sometimes more important than just the academic success of a student, right? And so I think in our program, in our model, one of the things that we really get to do a lot is change the experience that we're creating for students rather quickly. And we talked before you all joined us just about having like a student-centered design principle of really like backwards mapping to what are the needs of our students. But I think that stuff that you've just shared is so much important. And what's funny is we've been talking this whole time and we haven't yet talked about academic success, but it's because these other things are such drivers, right, and strategies to our students. So one thing I do want to shift gears a little bit. I have a couple of questions. You've mentioned a lot mentors and mentorship and having folks push you along this what we call curvy journey because it's not linear, and we find that a lot of times students are not set up for success when we talk about it, right, as like an A to B journey. And so in this room, a majority of the team is all directly student serving and facing. They are really the built-in mentors for our students. That's one of our key, really the heart and bread and butter. I'm mixing too many analogies right now. The heart of our program is really about having a coach or a mentor that is, supporting a student through their college experience. So I would love to hear any advice that a mentor gave you that you think is worth sharing to this group.
For me, through my educational, and I would say post-secondary, I didn't have a mentor. And I even at ELAC when I started, and I shared this with my team, I didn't meet with a counselor because I had the roadmap already designed, but I didn't know those resources were available. I think for me, my mentors, those that selected me, because you could try to select a mentor, right, and it might not be the right fit. They select you ultimately, like they accept you and say, you know what, let's go, let's talk, let's take this journey together. For me, a lot of them is the most important one I've received from them is always be a learner, be humble, listen twice, speak once. Really, think, be empathetic to the community you're serving. It's important to know who they are, what they are, but also at times we have to be knowledgeable as to the baggage that they're carrying. Our students will come to our door, but if we don't know, we don't take the time to care about what's happening, not in the classroom, what's happening outside, then is it going to be as impactful for them as others? And that's where we see the gaps in the social emotional needs of our students that right now, even more so, are coming to light. And we're noticing them a lot more. I'm sure they were there, but we're seeing it a lot more. But those are some of the I would say, the things I take close to heart that my mentors have shared with me. And it's important to, find a good mentor that you guys have that right chemistry. But along your journey as you're going through, then you must turn around and do the same for others. Take others under your wing, share your experiences, build them up, because that's how we empower each other, ourselves, in our world now. We need to ensure that we just don't take that knowledge and there's no knowledge transfer there. We have to share that and build that, because at that point, then you're creating the next leader. You're impacting, you're making that life-altering opportunity for that person, because you never know who you might touch on and say, wow, you impacted me. And right now, interesting, I'm getting some here and there Facebook messages. Are you Mr. Duenas from 112th Street? I'm like, yes. Well, you were my 5th grade teacher, and this is what I'm like, oh my goodness, they're graduating. I'm like, so it's worth it. I say, okay. But, that's, I would say, one of my asks of you as you're going through your journey. Definitely seek mentorship, but also take the opportunity to mentor someone.
I love that. So what do you think is, if there was a magic wand that you could wave to change systems of higher ed or K through 12, what would be the one systemic change that you would make?
I think for me, here in California would be to have one system for student, like the student information system, from pre-K all the way through your EDD doctoral. We have a lot of gaps along the way, and the planning should not be K-12. It really should be K through your career. And I think that's the direction we're going now, but really put it into motion, put it in ensuring that everyone understands what opportunities. Because if there's certain areas that are pushing career workforce and others are just pushing higher ed and above, we have to look at that and see, is this an equitable practice for all communities? It just can't be certain pockets that are receiving. It has to be across the board. So for me, I think it's changing the whole paradigm of education, educational goals. But don't stop, because you set a goal for someone to 12th grade, guess what? They're going to meet it at times. And they say, that's it. That's the finish line. Versus, no, the finish line should be here, and then being in the workforce, successfully contributing to our society. So I think that might be one of the areas that I wish that could be changed, is really thinking more globally and longer term for our students.
That's helpful, and I feel like I'm seeing a lot of head nods in the room, because I think that's really core to the work that we're doing too. We look at it's like through career, and I think we're all on this journey together, as many of us haven't necessarily had those conversations ourselves even, right? Like, we haven't reflected on what does my educational experience look like through my career and so forth. But I think that that's just really critical to the work, and especially there's a lot of assumptions made when people think that an education is enough, right? Just going to school and getting the degree. And one of the things that, as a newer program, we've just recently started graduating students, which we're super excited. They're graduating, they're getting through, and we're so excited. But the next, we're always up for a challenge, and I think the next big challenge that we're really thinking of is, how do we make sure that we are embedding ourselves in those workforce opportunities from the beginning. And I think to our conversation we had earlier about which degrees are we promoting and which communities, like that is a lot of what I think now we're like, okay, we need to be really aggressive and intentional in thinking about how we provide those workforce pathways as well.
In our communities, they know what they see at times. If we look at our families in certain areas, in my area that I work with predominantly, parents might have 2 to 3 jobs. So time for them to really explore and identify what might be a great pathway for their child, or even what is a pathway, is not a common theme that is discussed in the family, in the unit, where in the table or in the living room. I think for us, it's important to ensure that our families are aware of the opportunities that could be there. Identify what this means for a student when they go through this degree, and what the outcome could be. Discuss and raise awareness on careers that they had no idea of. Logistics being one of them, biomed. These are topics like, what does that mean? They see what they know, and that's what they push for at times. But I think it's important for us to be that change agent for them and really help them understand that there's options. At that point, I think we've done our due diligence, presenting the opportunities, and then they become well-informed consumers to make that decision ultimately.
And the curiosity, right? You mentioned being a lifelong learner, and that's something that you heard, from your mentors. And I think that that's one of our values too, and our outcomes that we really work with our students. We have another outcome that's all about purpose-driven paths, right? Where students are like really critically thinking and also accepting the fact that their roles are going to change a lot through life. I mean, it sounded like at the beginning you didn't think you would be where you are today. No. So I have 2 more questions for you, and then if anyone has questions, this is a great time to start thinking about them, because we'll have a few minutes at the end to ask questions. Where are you going to be in 20 years? What are you?
Retired.
For real this time, right?
Retired. Yeah. No, for me, I want to become a consultant after I finish my career. I kind of already have it set. I started teaching very young, so I started contributing into my retirement very early on. So that's something also, if you're kind of looking at your career trajectory, look into those things as well. Like, what organizations and what retirement looks like. What is that timeline? Start backwards planning. It's important to know that. But for me, I enjoy socializing. I enjoy talking to people. I want to continue supporting my local community, building myself out. Someone asked me, like, is this like a dream come true when you became the vice president? And I thought about it, and I said, well, it wasn't a dream of mine. I didn't set my goals that high. My thing was, get a job, maybe a principal. It's like, yes, that was my goal. I was like, I want to be. But never really that I think, to aim that high. And that's cultural at times for us. And I think that's something that was, my dad, no, Mijo, you got a good job. Take care of it. Why are you rocking the boat? No. Why are you going to try to apply? No, stay there. Good benefits, good vacation. But something inside me was just constantly driven to do more. And that's where I'm seeing completing my journey in education, but then being a consultant and trying to figure out other areas that may need support. One of my passions is dual enrollment. Family engagement and dual enrollment. And I say that because in our community, those are the areas I see there's the biggest gap, the biggest need. It's resources that are available, that are there, that will be life-changing for our students in regards to attaining their career and continuing, but it is not mentioned. It is not promoted, not marketed, not explained to parents. So going into consulting afterwards, I don't think retirement is going to be kind of just a less work, but more enjoyable, I guess, what I want to do.
I love that. Well, that's the ideal place, I think, for it to be. And I agree with the dual enrollment. I mean, one of the things that we're talking about more is just, shortening the timeline to completion. So we have a team member, I know at least one team member that finished high school with an associate's degree.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And I shared that we have had a couple of our students in our Yuma location as well as here. And those students got it right. That's the way to go. Well, with that, want to turn it to the room to see if anyone has any questions.
And it just doesn't have to be about ELAC. You can ask any questions.
I think if you want to stand up, I think we can hear you.
So I was just going to ask you, what's something you wish someone would have told you about working in higher education leadership?
When I transitioned from K-12 to higher ed, it was a major learning curve for me. I needed to really understand the system. I think for me, what would have been helpful is understanding 10+1, academic standard and so forth, and just really the the programmatic way of that higher ed functions versus K-12, more, again, policy-driven, top-down, statewide, and goals and so forth. And the higher ed has a different system. But I think for me, it would have been helpful to receive some more guidance in that part as I've transitioned through, and also understanding if you're the right fit for that organization. I think, at times, and I was very ambitious early on when I left the classroom. I don't know, I was like, I was getting, and that wasn't me trying to make change. I was being promoted, and I had to explain that in a couple of my interviews. Because if you look at a resume, you see, geez, you were only in this position 1 year and you're transitioning. But I had to explain that I was being promoted in those years. But ultimately, at the end, it's making that right choice. It's not about the money. Don't let your choice be about the money. Is this the right institution for me? And am I the right person for this institution? Because that is when the true work is going to happen. The magic is going to happen. You're going to feel there that you're jiving with them and making that being there for the students and making those changes. So I would say that, learn about the institution, see if it's the right fit for you in every aspect. In regards to your professional goals, but also your social emotional family needs as well. Is this the right environment for my family, for myself, to ensure that we are successful as a family unit to move forward?
That's great advice. Thank you. That's a great question. Do you want to stand up?
Yes, absolutely. My first question is, well, I wanted you to talk a little bit more about family engagement programs that you see that have been successful.
Okay.
Then I also was interested in how you would prioritize students, sort of assisting students.
Okay.
What would you prioritize?
Okay, great. So family engagement, I think for us, we tried different angles with families. Initially we had attempted to go directly in the community and put ads in the paper, and then back then it was just the newspaper, the local newspaper, and trying to connect with them, trying to do flyers. We rented this, we hired this gentleman that had a vehicle that had a big banner on the back, and he would drive around the community like, hey, ELAC is doing this event. So we're just trying to do it by ourselves. We were saying, we're ELAC, we're community college, we have a reach, we could, and it wasn't as powerful as collaborating with others. Finding other organizations, other groups that have like goals as you do, because we all are there to support our families and ensuring that they have access to resources. So it's finding those liked peers, liked organizations that you could collaborate and leverage resources and support. We collaborate with a lot of local community organizations, and we open up our doors and say, you know what, have your meetings here. Invite your parents. We don't need to impose. If you wish for me to drop by and say hi, I will. We can give you some swag. And they're like, really? For free? Yeah, for free, of course. And we're leveraging our support network with each other. That's one great way to build that sense of community, to infuse ASU into your local community as a partner. Because you're there for them, you're opening your doors. When they need help, you're there. When you need help, guess what? They'll be there for you as well. So that communal support will build up an opportunity for you to expand your reach. No longer you'll then look at identifying ways on how to reach a broader net of folks. That will be the great way. And the second question, the student journey, right? So I think for me right now, honestly, the most important part right now is first ensuring that our students are socially, emotionally okay. I think really asking, are you okay? What services do we have in any organization that we're going to be with to ensure that we have resources available for them and give them guidance as to what does this mean? Why am I asking you this? If you're feeling this way, this might mean you might be stressed out or you have anxiety and you never knew you had that. So again, helping students to first do a wellness check. Are you okay? Then I think one of the areas, as you mentioned, your case management and support. I think that's so important. That's one of the goals that we have in our organization, and is building and expanding on that ongoing support for students. It's really how do we support our students through the journey and checking in on them. That means a lot. For our communities that are first gen, our students, they need a lot of hand holding at first. We scaffold high in the first years, but then we, let it go and ease up on that. You don't want to over scaffold because then they're gonna be, just dependent on you all the time. You want to just phase it out. But I think a lot of support as they go through, giving them the information, the roadmap, and giving them timelines. This is when you should check in with a counselor. This is when you should do this, because we can't assume that the student knows. Those multi-generational college-going families, yes, they might be able to guide their child, but what happens to that first-gen student? Do they have someone to rely on to guide them, to even go to a counselor when you're going to college? to look for EOP&S for resources. Maybe consider going to DSPS if you feel you have needs. So I think as we're going through the roadmap is have all the resources available for our students and give opportunities for them to learn. And along this journey, bring the families along. When we have our first year experience on orientation, Rosalva Villalobos, she's awesome at ELAC right now, doing great things. She has a program, an orientation for the students and one for the parents. Students come drop your child off, you come over here and we're going to explain what your role is, what this parent role looks like here. That sets up a strong foundation. At that point, the student, you're going to feel confident that they are going to see their way through. But we still check in on them on the long journey. That's the goal there. But ultimately, you set up a strong foundation for them to ensure that they have all the information there that they know, and at least creating some timelines for them to accomplish their goals.
That's great. That's great advice. And, you know, I think through us, one of the things that's a signature part of our experience is a cohort model too. And I know that more and more, you know, for a long time, many programs, especially professional education programs, ran this way. But I think more and more, right, the more that everyone takes that cohorted approach, it really helps build that community and that support. I think we have time for one more question. If anyone else has a question, I see someone's hand two. We can get both in. We can get both in. Marley, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, Dr. Duenas. My name is Marley. I feel really honored to hear you talk about that love you have for your community and like how far they've pushed you, and you know you've continued to keep that momentum going. But in what ways did you lean on your community during those transition times? It sounds like they were a big part of it, and I'd love to get to hear about that. And then how do you recommend, suggest like your own mentees that are looking to you for guidance to lean on their community during transitions?
So there are multiple phases there, right? With my community, my local community, my Parks and Rec. You know, that's what kept me, you know, out of trouble for a bit, and kind of get me guided. My family unit in my neighborhood, my external family there, kind of what guided me, and we supported each other because we were close in helping each other out. As I went through that, I created my work community, my professional community. And as I went through different organizations, different schools and programs, you know, I connected with folks and I created my network. And I think it's important to understand, you know, your network is a reciprocal relationship there. You know, you build a network and it's not about, I met 10 million people and guess what, they know of you. What do you know of them? How often do you check in? And I think it's important as you're going through that, building that network, building that sense of community, it expands and it grows. And you're going through it and again, at times you're gonna shift. And it's okay. You shift and the relationship changes with it, but you're still going to be in contact with them. And for my mentees that I talk to them, I always talk about networking as being so important as you're going through life. Network, but ensure that you are also putting in. You know, you're building up that capital with them, ensuring that you're keeping up, and then holding your end to commitments being made. As you grow and as they grow, then they'll continue that cycle and hopefully see it through and then, you know, pay it forward with someone else.
I love that. I think similar to that, some great advice I heard is to, you know, build like an advisory board, right? Like have a, you know, and some of us have talked about this before, but right, have that, okay, this person's really great at finance and this person's great at leadership and this person's good at well-being and self-care to like really make you more well-rounded as a leader. So I think it's that, I agree. It's very much building up that network and also being mindful of who, you know, but I think to your point, especially as many of us are, that a lot of us are at different stages in our career and our team. And I think the key part is following through, but also giving something back to the network. And yeah, I wish there was a couple of relationships I had really early on in my career that I'm like, I should have kept these, you know, and I think maybe they would answer, but I don't know. But I haven't tried, so I need to work on it myself. And then Laura, I think you had a question as well.
Yes, so first of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed listening to your journey. I'm very intrigued by the like involving more families in your program. I think thinking about our program, the phases that each site is in and the capacity that each site has, what are some loopholes that you have found in higher ed to communicate directly with parents, since we don't have direct access to parents in
Well, that's a great question, and that goes to I think building your connections with the community. At times, let's say your goal is connecting with your local K-12 community, and at times, there's a lot of restrictions there and policies that make it challenging to connect with them. But you also have local community-based organizations that those families rely on. Is connecting with them to see, the opportunity to share with their families. Parochial sites, really looking at local churches and places where families gather to connect and share information, build those linkages there. Ultimately, you're able to then start building your communal network there. And I think that's important because aside from just getting access to the families when you need to share information, they see you there. They see your organization present. They see you in the community. One of my mentors, Eugene, he told me, Miguel, he goes, when you're a principal at a school site, when you're an administrator in an area, the families need to see you in their community. You eat where they eat, you shop where they shop, and you pray where they pray. And it was like, wow, I never thought about that. And it's so important. Because I remember when I seen my teacher going to the local hamburger stand, I was like, you eat? Like, what? So it builds that bond. And when they see ASU branded around, then, they're going to feel comfortable when that name comes up, when that letter of acceptance comes forward and say, oh, wow, I remember them. They were at that church function, or they were at that parks event. Things like that is where you start building the branding, you start bringing it to the families, and it's tangible, it's real for them. It's not just something they see on TV, but it's meaningful for them. But great question, thank you.
These were wonderful questions and just such great advice and great conversation today. I think it's just so impressive and inspiring to hear what you've done and how you've been able to be so family focused and community focused. And I think I like being underestimated. That's like oh my God, some folks know I have a little, maybe some issues with competition, but I like, right, like I always, like in my entire life, I've always been like attracted and gravitated towards like the stories of the underdog, right? Or like, yeah, go ahead and underestimate me.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. It drives me. And I think that, I think what I love about, as much as there's inequity in the world and all this, like, there are so many communities that are underestimated so much. And a lot of times what the things you were talking about today, what it made me think about is just like how far people have come as a society, as a country, as a community, and the advancements that they've made based off of like local grassroots effort and mobilizing, right? And I think that, I'm not surprised the way that communities show up and show out for people and the change they can make. But I think for all of us, it's a really good reminder because we are so head down in the work often, but I think it's a really good reminder for us to be very intentional at how we're, embedding and partnering and collaborating, and as we hopefully grow our program, having that like at the forefront of new opportunities for our model.
Awesome, that's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and let's
Thank
give
you.
a big.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Well, you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you back and hope that we can, start to collaborate more and support more ELAC students
Thank you.
in the ASU Local model.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, man, are they going to care what I had to say?